Hello and welcome to IAMC Radio and Podcast.
Glad to be here.
Today, we'll explore the top news headlines for May 10th.
Yes, quite a bit happening.
Let's jump right in. First stop, Uganda. There's news about Bobi Wine's chief bodyguard, Eddie Mutwe, allegedly abducted.
That's right. The report is he was taken around April 27th.
Okay.
And then, General Muhozi, who is President Museveni's son,
Right.
he actually claimed on Twitter that he was holding Eddie.
He claimed it publicly.
Yes, and apparently even posted some details suggesting alleged torture.
That's concerning. What happened next?
Well, the Uganda Human Rights Commission issued a release order.
And was it obeyed?
It seems not. General Muhozi reportedly disobeyed it, and then Eddie Mutwe appeared in court, charged with aggravated robbery, simple robbery, and assault. Reports say he looked weak, was limping.
And Bobi Wine's reaction?
Understandably distressed him and his family. He stated this isn't just about elections anymore, it's really about fundamental freedoms.
A serious situation indeed. Okay, let's move across to Sweden. We're hearing about Nigerian nationals seeking asylum.
Yes, quite a notable number. So far in 2024, 375 Nigerians have sought asylum there.
375, how does that rank?
It puts Nigeria 9th overall among all countries applying in Sweden, and 4th highest among African nations.
Interesting. Any demographic details?
Yeah, mostly working-age adults, 25 to 44, and actually slightly more women than men among those applying for the first time.
Okay. But isn't Sweden tightening its policies?
Exactly. That's the other side of it. Sweden issued the lowest number of asylum-linked residence permits since 1985.
Wow, since 85. Why the drop?
It's linked to stricter policies under the TDO agreement, the current government's framework.
I see. And why are so many Nigerians applying now, do analysts think?
The general consensus links it to, worsening insecurity back in Nigeria, and of course, economic hardship. People are looking for alternatives.
Makes sense.
Well,
all right, staying within Nigeria for a moment, but shifting to Abia State. Something about the former governor's government house.
Yes, the current governor, Alex Otti, his administration has plans for it.
What kind of plans?
They intend to convert the building, which belonged to the former governor Ikpeazu, into a 5-star hotel.
A hotel? Why?
Well, the official reason given is that the current government house is, and I quote, in uninhabitable condition.
Uninhabitable.
Apparently lacking basic features, maybe incomplete, and they even cited safety concerns.
So the argument is?
The argument is this conversion prevents wasting state resources on a building they deem unusable, turning a liability into an asset, perhaps.
Okay, we'll see how that develops. Now, a public health issue. Mpox in Sierra Leone. Sounds like there's been a surge.
A significant one, yes. The Africa CDC has raised the alarm.
How bad is it?
In just 1 week, Sierra Leone reported 384 confirmed cases.
384 in a week.
Yes, and that figure represented over 50% of all cases reported across the entire African continent that week.
That's a huge concentration.
It really is, and it's part of a broader resurgence of Mpox we're seeing in West and Central Africa.
Didn't Sierra Leone declare an emergency earlier?
They did, back in January. But they're facing challenges.
Like what?
Well, underfunding is one, and critically, treatment bed capacity. They have about 800 active cases, but only around 60 beds available for treatment.
That's a massive gap.
Huge. Plus, there's a need to really improve contact tracing and lab capacity to get ahead of it.
Any good news on Mpox elsewhere?
A little bit. Cases are reportedly declining in Uganda and Burundi, and maybe flattening out in the DRC, so it's not all bad news across the board.
Okay, some perspective there. Let's move to Cameroon now. Friday prayers canceled in Garoua. That seems unusual.
It is quite unusual. Authorities there canceled Muslim Friday prayers because of threats.
Threats from whom?
From Boko Haram. Apparently, the group had spread the word about plans for an attack.
So this was a direct, known threat.
It seems so. The cancellation was described as a precautionary measure purely for public safety.
A stark reminder of the ongoing threat in that region.
Absolutely. Boko Haram's been active around Lake Chad since, 2013. It continues to cause instability. Residents were understandably fearful, and major mosques were shut.
Right. Okay, back to Nigeria, this time the capital, Abuja. A really disturbing incident involving a church worker and police.
Yes, very troubling. A church worker named John Bargo was allegedly shot.
Shot? By whom?
Reportedly by a Nigerian police officer who was mishandling a rifle.
Mishandling it. Where did this happen?
At the Baptist church in the Kara district, reports mention 2 officers were involved. One was assigned to the church, another worked nearby.
And the shooting itself? An accident.
It's described as happening during a reckless interaction with the firearm. Not necessarily intentional firing at him, perhaps, but extreme negligence.
What were the consequences for Mr. Barga?
Severe. The bullet apparently shattered his femur. He needed surgery, costing around $25 million.
That's a huge sum. Who paid?
The church reportedly funded the surgery.
And the officers involved?
Yeah.
Any accountability?
Well, adding to the concern, there are reports that one of the officers actually absconded, ran off, and so far no formal charges or official reprimands have been reported.
That's deeply concerning. Okay, let's turn our attention now to Afghanistan. Restrictions under the Taliban continue, it seems.
Yes, the pattern continues. Recently, Taliban authorities in the north detained 14 people.
For what reason?
For playing music and singing at a private gathering.
Just music and singing.
Correct. It's banned under the Taliban's very strict interpretation of Islamic law. They consider it, well, un-Islamic.
Where does this happen?
In Takhar province. The official reason given for the arrests was causing a public disturbance.
Right. This isn't new, is it?
No, not at all. Since they regained control in 2021, they've severely limited music and almost all forms of public entertainment. Music schools closed, instruments destroyed, public performances outlawed. It's a systematic suppression.
A very different reality there.
Yeah.
Okay, now for some potentially major international news involving India, Pakistan, and the U.S.
Yes, quite significant. U.S. President Trump announced an immediate ceasefire agreement between India and Pakistan.
The ceasefire after the recent conflicts.
Exactly. It follows days of pretty intense conflict involving jet fighters, missiles, drones, artillery.
Yeah.
The works.
And the U.S. role.
Mediation. The U.S. reportedly brokered the talks. Secretary of State Rubio and Vice President Vance were involved, talking with the prime ministers of both India and Pakistan.
So it's just a ceasefire, or is there more?
The agreement also includes a commitment from both India and Pakistan to start talks.
Talks on what?
On a broad set of issues, apparently. And they've agreed to hold these talks at a neutral site.
Has this been confirmed by both sides?
Pakistan's foreign minister has confirmed the ceasefire. We haven't seen an immediate official comment from India just yet, but the announcement came from the U.S. president.
Okay, significant development to watch. Right, let's hit back to Nigeria again. Ogun State this time. Allegations against a traditional ruler.
Yes, serious allegations. A UK-based Nigerian woman, Christy Oluwabunmi Ogiwul, has petitioned the Ogun State House of Assembly.
Petitioned about what?
She's accusing a monarch, Oba Adegai Adeyemi Olanrewaju, of fraud and false marriage.
Fraud. How much are we talking?
She alleges he defrauded her of over $115 million. That includes cash, jewelry, personal property. Quite a sum.
And the false marriage claim.
She claims the monarch deceived her into a fake marriage ceremony and even forged divorce papers, presumably to make himself appear eligible.
Wow. Is this an isolated claim?
She alleges it's not. She claims the monarch has a history of doing this, targeting wealthy women with similar tactics.
Has she taken this elsewhere?
Yes, she's reportedly petitioned other authorities too, like state governors and the EFCC, Nigeria's anti-corruption agency.
Quite a story unfolding there. Okay, nearly wrapping up. Over to the U.S., Newark specifically. The mayor arrested.
Yes, Newark Mayor Russ Baraka was arrested. The charge was alleged trespassing.
Trespassing where?
At a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, detention facility.
Why was he there? What's the context?
Well, his arrest came just after his administration had actually filed a lawsuit. Against the operation of that same detention facility. They cited violations of city codes as the reason to block it.
So he was protesting the facility his administration was suing.
It appears so. The interim U.S. attorney mentioned that Mayor Baraka had ignored warnings from Homeland Security officials before the incident occurred.
Is there a political angle here too?
There is. Mayor Baraka is currently running for governor of New Jersey, and he has a history of opposing this particular detention center. So the timing and action are certainly notable in that context.
Right, adds another layer. Okay, finally, one more from Nigeria. Social media influencer, Very Dark Man, or VDM. He had a warning for the EFCC.
Yes, Martins Otse, known as Very Dark Man, he was recently released from EFCC custody.
Okay.
And upon release, he issued a warning to the agency. He said they took his picture with one of their placards during his detention.
A standard procedure sometimes, right?
It can be, but VDM's concern is how that photo might be used. He warned them not to publish it alongside any claims of, say, money laundering, without providing the full context of his situation.
So he's worried about being falsely portrayed.
Exactly. He's threatened legal action if the photo is used misleadingly to associate him with financial crimes he hasn't been charged with or convicted of.
Any other concerns?
He also mentioned his phone is still being held by the EFCC, which raises concerns for him about potential evidence tampering.
Okay. A lot to unpack there as well.
Definitely.
Well, that brings us to the end of our headlines for today.
Indeed. A busy news day.
Thank you for listening to today's top news headlines on IMC Radio and Podcast.